provides you what you call cognitive framework. The cognitive framework is very important. This is called elaborative interrogation in education psychology. The combination of all these three is what is called analogic reasoning. More than 400 million students. What's going to be my intracranial pressure in Mars? You'll be hooked. I promise you'll be hooked. It's such a fascinating way to learn the topic. Imagine a study method that is so powerful that it allows you to master any topic that you learn. The GAMT DL Framework does just that. GAMT DL Framework uses 8 proven zones to transform your learning, aligning with strategies that has been tested on more than 400 million students. You're right, 400 million students. Okay, so let's jump in and just transform your learning. This is Dr. Karthik, and for people who are new to this channel, I'm an anesthesiologist working in Dublin. This channel is all about the transformative power of cliff-assisted memory technique, or GAMT. Learning isn't just about memorization, it's a multifaceted journey. In this channel, we explore everything about creating a GAMT, to applying GAMT DL Framework, all the way to creating effective recall strategies. Let's jump into the GAMT DL Framework. Okay, so what do we have here? So we have a tree with a bit of tree cavity here and 2 eggs inside the tree, and you have the roots of the tree, and you have leaves on the sides, and you have probably young leaves right in the middle, and then you have saplings on the side of the tree with a small bit of roots, and this is the ground of the soil. Okay, first we're going to look at this GAMT and look at what the 8 zones are. Next, we're going to go through each zones and with a specific example so that you know exactly how to apply this when you're learning a topic. Okay, let's get going. We have the tree cavity here, which resembles the letter O, which stands for overview, and the eggs inside the tree cavity resembles the letter F, which stands for figures. So the zone 1 is overview and figures. Okay, next, second zone is GAMT. I call this a GAMT, but actually what it is in fact is an anchor. We'll talk about the anchor when we come to zone 2, but zone 2 is GAMT or any anchor that you're going to use for a particular topic. Okay, zone 3 is the root of the tree, which resembles the letter W, which stands for why questions. So it's not just limited to why questions, why, what, when, where, how questions. Okay, so all these questions come under zone 3. Okay, that's where we're going to ask all the questions. Next is zone 4, which is compare and contrast zone. So this stands for C, right? This stands for another C, so it stands for compare and contrast. That's zone 4. And then we're going to go zone 5, which is the association zone. So you see the young leaves here, which is number of A's joined together, stands for association. And then we go to zone 6. Zone 6 is this sapling in the side. This resembles the letter P, which stands for past exam questions. Okay, and then you go to zone 7, which is the soil here, again, which is a lot of A's combined together. It stands for applying the knowledge. That's zone 7. The last zone is zone 8, which is research and innovation. This R and I here. So the root, this part of the root resembles the letter R, stands for research, and this part of the root resembles the letter I, it stands for innovation. So research and innovation is zone 8. Okay, the important thing is that you have to spend some time in each of these zones. The zone 1 and zone 2 are typically what you do at the start when you learn any topic. Once you've done that, you can go through the other zones in any random order. So that's why it's called zones instead of levels. Once you do that, by the time you finish learning the topic, your mastery of the topic is going to be exceptional. It's going to be 99% better than anybody else who's reading the topic or learning the topic. The fourth zone is the overview and the figures zone. So what do I mean by that? So let's say you're reading this topic on elevated intracranial pressure. So I'm using the Open Anesthesia website. So what you want to do is have a very clear idea as what's expected out of you. So you look at the chapters. There's introduction, there's pathophysiology of intracranial hypertension, and then there's signs and symptoms. And there's something called ICP monitoring, and there's something about management of elevated intracranial pressure, acquired compartment, hyposmotherapy, etc. So, okay, so overall you have an idea. So this is the stuff that I'm expected to learn and to know in this particular topic. It provides you what you call cognitive framework. The cognitive framework is very important because it takes away the pressure from your mind. It takes away the expectations as to how much you need to know, how much you need to learn, etc. So it's got a very clear framework on top of which you can actually start putting the building blocks of learning. So the cognitive framework allows you to reduce the cognitive load. So as you go through the topic, you kind of know what part of your topic that you're on, the moment, etc. So it's very important to have this overview before you start. Second thing, the second point in zone 1 is what I call figures. The figures are very important. as you know yourself, a picture is equivalent to 1,000 words, which is very true. So when I say figures in a particular topic, it's either images or it's tabular columns, or it's graphs or tables or whatever it is. So any type of visual representation of the data or of the text is what I call a figure. So what you should try to do is get all the figures in that particular topic all in one location, right? So for example, this topic has a lot of figures in it. So you can see the curve here of the intracranial volume and intracranial pressure, and then you have a tabular column here, and then you have another image here. Look at the different herniations, and then you look at the different in another image here showing the different ways to measure the intracranial pressure. Another table. So okay, so there's a good few number of tables. So what you can also do is actually go to the Google and you just type in intracranial pressure. Okay, and you enter. So you're going to go to the images bar. Just look at all the images. So depending on your context, or or whether you're preparing for your anesthesia exam, or you're preparing for a medical school exam or physiology exam, etc., you can actually select the images and figures that suits your particular learning. So and then you can save it on the same place. So let's take a lot of images here. So for example, this image is very interesting. That's very good for anesthesia students because of P1, P2, and P3 can be asked in MCQs or in exams. Okay. So what I've done, so how do I do it? I've used OneNote for all my educational activities. So this is what I have for figures. So I have a notebook here for CNS module, and I have ICP, and then the second tab in the ICP is what I have called figures. So what I do, all the figures corresponding to that particular topic, I put it in this page. Okay, so you have all the figures here that I've stored. So this one, when did I say this? It says 2011. No, it's actually screen clipping taken on 11/11/2010. Yeah, so long time ago. So this one is taken on 2014. So as you can see, because of this, it allows me to kind of capture. Anytime I find an interesting image on this particular topic, I actually capture it and put it in this page. So you get the idea. So all these images come in one place, all right? Okay, so that's zone 1, right? Now you spend a bit of time in zone 1. So you have an overview of the topic, you put all the figures in one place. Now you're ready to learn the topic, you're ready to understand the topic, you delve into the topic, and then once you do that, you need to generate a GAMT, preferably if you're using this memory technique, or you can use any memory technique, or you can use nodes. So the point of the zone 2 is that you need to have an anchor. So what do I mean by an anchor? The anchor is a place where you can actually hang everything, right? So when you're learning a topic, it's nice to have an anchor for that particular topic. Let's say, again, intracranial pressure. So what I prefer to do is create a GAMT for intracranial pressure. So that GAMT, say for example, this tree is a GAMT for intracranial pressure. So I use this GAMT as an anchor. So anytime I get more information on this particular topic, it goes on to this GAMT. Either I'm going to modify this GAMT, or I'm going to add extra sentences on the side, or I'm going to actually redraw a new GAMT altogether, because if the information that I need to add more is a lot, then I need to generate a new GAMT. Okay. So this anchor is a very important component, especially when you're using multiple sources to gather your information. So you're reading from a textbook, you're reading from a journal, you're reading from an online article, and then you're reading from, you're learning from lectures in the classroom or in your hospital. So anything you do, so all this information goes into this particular place. Okay. So the other thing I also do is, when I'm learning the topic, I also do the MCQs from the exams, right? So you do FRC MCQ exams, a lot of books that you do. Obviously, people who plan for the exams know a lot of past exam questions, MCQs. You solve those MCQs, and anytime when you have a topic related to intracranial pressure, right? And if you learn something that's not given in your text, or it's not already captured in your learning, you bring that to this particular anchor here. So hope you understand how this works. This anchor is a central point where all the information comes back. You've completed zone 1 and zone 2. So we're going to go to the other zones. So from here on, you don't have to follow any particular order. You can jump from one zone to the other zone. Okay, so let's go into the zone 3. Zone 3 is the why question zone. So this is where we ask all the why, what, when, how questions. So this is called elaborative interrogation in educational psychology. So this is a very proven technique, and has been used for a number of years. There's loads of studies supporting the evidence of use in learning different concepts. And anytime you use this elaborative interrogation type of learning, you actually deepen your understanding of that concept significantly. Okay, so let's say you're reading about elevated intracranial pressure. So you come across the sentence where it says signs and symptoms. So you have Cushing's triad. So you have the common presenting symptoms of intracranial hypertension include nausea, vomiting, headache, and then you have something about Cushing's triad. The Cushing's triad includes hypertension, bradycardia, and irregular respiration. So now how are you going to use the zone 3 now? So I'm in the zone 3 mode. Okay, so I'm going to ask why, what, when for everything. Okay, so let's see how we do that. So open ChatGPT. That's fantastic. There's no excuse for not using ChatGPT these days. Alright, so I'm going to say, why does raised intracranial pressure causes headache. All right, just rushing of this. No, let's see. Okay, see. It's going to go through that and just gives an answer. It's going to why. So due to increased pressure exerted on pain-sensitive structures within the cranial wall, the brain itself lacks pain. Okay, so we all know that. However, the meninges, blood vessels, cranial nerves are sensitive to pain. Elevated ICP can cause dilation, compression of these structures, activating neural structures, cause headaches. Okay, so now you know something. This time I'm going to ask why. So, okay, why does raised ICP cause vomiting? Right? Reasonable question. Okay, so why does it cause vomiting? Because pain. Okay, now I understand. So why does it cause vomiting? So elevated intracranial pressure can lead to vomiting several mechanisms. Super, fantastic. Direct stimulation of vomiting center. Increase between barely compress and irritate the middle of the vomiting center is located, triggering the emetic response. So straight away, what we've done is we not only asked the why question, but asking the why question allows you to explore the other topic related to this, which is the location of chemoreceptor trigger zone, which is actually in the medulla. Okay, so if you read about vomiting before or post-operative nausea and vomiting, you probably would have read about this at that point. Now we're kind of coming back to that, so you can actually allow you to link the different knowledge database that you have in your mind. So the next thing is activation of chemoreceptor. The chemoreceptor trigger zones, there's vomiting center, and this chemoreceptor trigger zone is in the area posterior medulla, lacks blood-brain barrier, making sensitive to chemical changes blood pressure. It has been alter the composition of these systems. So again, the elevated ICP can alter the composition of these fluids, stimulating the chemoreceptor trigger zone. Cushing's reflex. So again, okay, so Cushing's reflex can cause to hypertension, bradycardia, respiration. This reflex can also induce vomiting center. So he says Cushing's reflex also increases vomiting. Now I want to ask next question: why do one get Cushing's reflex due to raised intracranial pressure? So raised intracranial pressure causes Cushing's reflex, as you know, hypertension, bradycardia, and irregular respiration. So why do we have that? Okay. All right, so can cause Cushing's physiological phenomenon, hypertension, sympathetic nervous system activation causes blood pressure. So again, you know, because your intracranial pressure, the cerebral perfusion pressure goes down. To compensate for that, you have a sympathetic stimulation which increases the blood pressure. So okay, the baroreceptors detect the increase in blood pressure to trigger a parasympathetic response by vagus nerve, so they decrease heart rate. So once you have the increased blood pressure, stretches the baroreceptors, causes bradycardia. Okay, so hypertension, I can understand the brain is trying to increase its blood flow because compensate for the cerebral perfusion pressure loss. And then bradycardia, okay, sudden increase in pressure causes for the bradycardia, understood. And then you have irregular. Why do you have irregular respiration? So ICP can compress the brainstem. Again, everything comes down to compressing the brainstem. So you compress the brainstem, there's respiratory centers, there's vomiting centers. Okay, so and then the other thing that you saw here is also meant to say downcast eyes. So why do I have downcast eyes? Downcast eyes and raised ICP. Okay, why? That is beyond the why question. So the only question we can ask is why. Okay, downcast eyes. Okay, ooh, there you go. Lots of stuff. Elevated ICP can lead to downgaze bond for a sunsetting sign to several mechanisms. Perineal syndrome can dorsal midbrain, particularly the vertical gaze centers. Located in the upward gaze, called Perineal syndrome. So there's a known syndrome in ischemic and stroke patients. Sixth nerve palsy can switch compress abducens nerve. Abductor palsy can cause that drift medially and downwards. So you give this sixth nerve along the cross gets compressed with raised ICP. Okay, hydrocephalus is a synchronized downwards. Okay, so you have an idea why there is the sunset signs happen. So that's the power of spending some time in the Y zone. All right, hope you get the idea. Now, moving on to the next zone, which is zone 4, which is the compare and the contrast zone. This is a very interesting zone. So the compare and the contrast zone is a fantastic zone because it allows you to compare things that you thought are not comparable, for example. Okay, so again, you just have to use ChatGPT because it just makes it so effortless. And probably maybe 10 years before the ChatGPT came in, before even online system came in, it was probably difficult to do this sort of deep learning so quickly. Now, because of this, you can actually access it very easily. You're reading about intracranial pressure. So you're in the zone 4, which is the compare and the contrast zone. So all you compare contrast zone, all you can do here is compare and contrast different stuff. That's all you're going to do in this zone. So you're going to ask, you're wearing the compare and contrast hat. They call the different, you wear, the manager hat, the worker hat, etc. So you're wearing the zone 4 hat, which is the compare and the contrast hat. Okay. So let's say compare and contrast the different compartments in the body which are similar to intracranial compartment. Okay, let's see what comes up. Okay, So the human body contains several compartments like intracranial compartment and enclosed space limited compartment volumes. Okay, so intracranial, we already, that's what we're reading about. Thoracic compartment, abdominal compartment, limb compartment, and etc. Okay, right. Okay, so compare the pressures, pressure range between different compartments and tabulate the difference. Okay, so again, what you're trying to do is have a bit more context, a bit more understanding of that particular topic. Okay, so he's going to compare intrathoracic. Okay, so limb compartments. What about intraocular? Oh yeah, intraocular pressure. Pericardial compartment. Okay, right. Okay, so what we've done here, right? So we just ask a simple question, and we got an excellent answer. So you say, okay, so let's see what this thing is. Let's see this. Right. Okay, so it gives you, this is all the compartments: intracranial, thoracic, abdominal, limb compartment. So normal pressure is 5 to 15 intracranial. Okay, minus 5 plus 5 thoracic, slightly different, so understand that. 0 to 7, 0 to 8, ocular is 10 to 21, pericardial less than 5. Okay, so elevated pressure range, this is where it gets very interesting. So more than 20 is raised intracranial pressure, so that's pretty high. Thoracic, again, more than 20 millimeter mercury is called tension pneumothorax. More than 12 is intra-abdominal hypertension. More than 20 is abdominal compartment syndrome. You can see a pattern here. 20 is an everyone. 20 intracranial, 20 in thoracic for tension pneumothorax, 20 for abdominal compartment syndrome. The limb compartment is actually 30, slightly higher. Okay, more than 21, very similar. More than 20 for cardiac tamponade, 15 to 20. Wow, that's amazing. That's very good. Like this, like you can suddenly explore this and say, oh wow, that's, you probably would have never thought of this when you're reading raised intracranial pressure. But to understand that every compartment, 20 millimeter seems to be the magic number, plus or minus, around which bad things starts to happen. Right? When you analyze these different things and when you come up with something that makes sense, you get this aha moment, and you get a dopamine hit. That's the joy of learning, right? That's the joy. That this framework allows you to extract the joy of learning every single time you learn the topic. But that's fascinating. Like, when I was doing research for this particular YouTube video, I came across this because I read about all these things separately, but I never put all this together. But now I say, wow, 20. So, and then now obviously the next question, compare and contrast. So I compare and contrast it, so I kind of know where things are. Okay, now I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to go back to zone 3 and ask why questions. So I'm going to say why. Why is 20 millimeter mercury seems to be the magic number for all these compartments? Okay, it's not properly phrased. Yeah, okay, so I mean, it's not phrased perfectly, but there you go. ChatGPT gives an answer. The result of 20 millimeters critical value across multiple organs is not coincidental. Oh, there you go. Okay, so I'm going to wait for it to finish loading all the answers. Okay, summary. Okay, all right. So across molecules is not a coincidence. Reflects the limit of physiological tolerance and compensating mechanism within closed spaces. Okay, pressure perfusion relationship. So you have intracranial, you have the cerebral perfusion pressure. Okay, so physiological limits, venous of obstruction, arterial compression. Okay, it makes sense because the whole body has same arterial pressure, systolic pressures, diastolic pressure. So it kind of makes sense in a way, isn't it? The more you think about it, right? So the evolution of from excessive coiled pressure. Okay, so there's a lot of evidence towards the pressures. Okay, so perfusion pressure significantly compensating mechanism overwhelm clinical weakness. Okay, so there you go. That's fascinating. I'm really excited I stumbled upon this, but that's great. Like, you know, so now you're never going to forget the 20 millimeter mercury. More than 20 millimeter mercury is very high for intracranial pressure, because any tissues, the higher the pressure, you're going to stop. You know, you're going to reduce the perfusion. You're going to, you know, or the compensatory mechanism no longer being sufficient. Now I have another question here, right? So I have another why question here. So the map is, map on average is 60 to 80. So why is tissue pressure critical threshold is 20? Kind of roughly know the answer already, but I just want to see what ChatGPT says. Okay, so all right, that means venous. So venous, obviously that's the answer. So Okay, so venous pressure typically 5 to 15, right? So the compartment X is above venous pressure, venous collapse occurs after venous congestion. So that seems to be the key. Now the venous pressure. Now I learned something else. Not only I know that 20 millimeters is standard pressure across, standard critical pressure across multiple components, but I also know that the venous pressure is 5 to 15. So anything more than 15, you're going to stop the venous return, you're going to start getting congestion, and then there you go. You get sluggish blood flow. You get blood flow. So microcirculation, that's very important. Capillary hydrostatic pressure becomes insufficient right perfusion. Ooh, that's very cool. That's very cool. The capillary hydrostatic pressure is 15 to 25 millimeters of mercury. Okay, so that ground really explains. So when your capillary perfusion gets impaired, so then the tissues becomes hypoxic. There you go. Okay, so MAP is a systemic measurement that does not account for localized pressure dynamic within the tissue compartment. Makes sense. Local pressures act against the perfusion, reduce molecular pressure. So so let's say intracranial pressure is 20. Your capillary perfusion is already starting getting impaired. So even up to 25, you can get a bit of capillary perfusion, right? But and then you kind of start obstructing the venous return, you start getting congestion, and you kind of override the compensating mechanisms. Very quickly, you start getting tissue ischemia and tissue hyperperfusion, and get worse results. There you go. Okay, so that's great. So I learned a lot of things now. I didn't go extensively searching all this literature. All I did is spend some time in the zone and ask the right questions, and I used ChatGPT to get me the answers. Now I know much more information than what I went in to study the topic. Okay, hope it makes sense. So this is fascinating. It allows you to get joy from learning, which is really what I'm trying to convey. So there's a lot of joy in learning, and if you ask the right questions, and anybody can do this, anyone, it's just an internet connection and access to free ChatGPT can do this. So you don't need any magic. All you need to do is know the right framework. If you don't know the right questions to ask, you're not going to get the information. You're not going to get the benefit of this. Okay, so there you go. So the compare and the contrast zone. So we've done the compare and the contrast zone. So you see how the comparison works. It gives you a very good perspective. Now, the other component in the compare and the contrast zone is what's called similarity zone. All right. So the compare, contrast, and similarities are very important. So the combination of all these three is what is called analogic reasoning. Analogic reasoning is very important to promote higher order thinking, deep learning. Analogic reasoning is when you compare two or three things and look at the similarities between the two things, right? Say for example, you're learning about atoms, and then you associate, and then you ask yourself, okay, how is atoms similar to the solar system? So you can say, okay, how is nucleus, the electrons rotating on the nucleus similar to the sun, and the planets rotating on the sun? What's the difference in their forces? The nucleus exerts some forces around the electrons, the sun exerts forces around the. How are they different? And in what way they're similar? In what way they're closer to each other than other examples, right? This sort of analogical reasoning is what takes you to the higher order thinking. The more time you engage in higher order thinking, the more stronger your memory is going to be. Okay, so and your understanding of the topic is going to be. Okay, hope you get the point. Okay, so next is the association zone, which is zone 5. The association zone is again very important. Now, anybody who has learned about long-term memory knows very clearly that association is one of the basic ways in which our brain remembers stuff. So anytime you want to retain content for a long term, you need to associate with stuff that you already know. That's kind of a basis for any memory technique. Right? Any memory technique that you use, you always try to link it with systems that you already know. So in the GAMT, we're doing something similar, for example, right? So for the GAMT DL framework that we're talking about now, we're using the GAMT of a tree cavity and an egg, right? This is not something new to you guys, right? So everyone knows how a tree looks like. So the tree has a bark, it has roots, it has leaves, and tree cavity. Sometimes you can see eggs in the tree cavity, and you can see saplings on the side, you can see roots. So overall structure of this image is in your memory already. So you're not doing anything new. So you basically what you're doing, associating that information with new information, right? That's what you're doing in GAMT, and you're massively leveraging the effect of association. So that's what association means. Anytime you read a topic, you need to learn to associate that with other known elements in your memory. Okay, so how do I do that? What's a framework for associations? Association can be within the topic. Okay, so let's say if you're reading about intracranial pressure, so your association can be within the topic, within the intracranial pressure. So how are each of the stuff related to each other? Association between topics, as we saw already. So when we are reading about intracranial pressure, so we looked at when we are in the zone 4, so we looked at comparing the contrast zone, we looked at the intraocular pressures. Now, you might have already read about intraocular pressure, and you might already have an anchor for the intraocular pressure, or you might have a GAMT for the intraocular pressure. So what you can do is go back to that GAMT and look at the pressure range again and try to associate with the two. Say, okay, so intraocular pressure more than 20 is high, intracranial pressure more than 22 is very high. So, you kind of create those associations. So they're both similar, and we already did that in the comparison contour zones. A lot of these zones overlap to a certain extent, but it's important to specifically spend time in each of these zones. So, and then you associate between subjects. How do I associate between subjects? Obviously, pharmacology is going to come into play. So when you look at the treatment of raised intracranial pressure, a lot of pharmacological ways to reduce the intracranial pressure. And so let's say if you're talking about hyperosmolar therapy, so you go to the pharmacology subject and you look at the GAMT or the anchor that you created for the hyperosmolar saline and how it's used in intracranial pressure or treatment of intracranial pressure. You must have an anchor for that in the pharmacology. So you go to that anchor, look at all the details, and try to see if you can relate these two details. Okay. So you should actively look for associations. That's how your brain learns and remembers stuff. Okay. Then comes to the next level. So this is between topics. This is within topic, between topics, and between subjects. Right. So now we're getting out, stepping out, coming into the next zone, which is personal, is where you try to associate the topic that you learned to your day-to-day experience, your past and the future experience. So day-to-day experience, what do I mean by that? So raised intracranial pressure, how can you relate that to your day-to-day experience? Okay, let's say you're checking your tire pressure tomorrow. Say, how is it different to the tire pressure or the intracranial pressure? That's the PSI, this is millimeters of mercury. How do you transfer each of those? Those sort of thinking allows you to kind of really, associate stuff with your day-to-day activities. How do you associate with your past? Have you, say for example, have you ever had a head injury? Known friends have head injury, and they have raised intracranial pressures that you know about at that time, etc., etc. So, and your past experience of treating a patient with raised ICPs. So those are the things that you need to associate, and you need to associate that with this GAMT, and you kind of create associations, and that's where your learning becomes more stronger. Okay, and friends and family, you might know somebody in the family who has raised ICP, or somebody, friends might have a raised ICP and getting treatment for raised ICP, and these experiences are all very important. So you can look at the bigger picture. So you can also say, okay, raised ICP, and how can I link? So you can get out of this particular zone. You can go out. So what's going to be my let's ask one question. So what's going to be my intracranial pressure in Mars, for example? So you're going out, you're experiencing bigger picture, and you're going out, and intracranial likely differ from Earth due to unique environmental facilities. Low gravity is 0.3 of that cause going to happen in Mars. Okay, reduced special gravity estimated. Okay, on Earth, okay, the Mars raised modestly. Okay, so the Mars is your intracranial pressure is going to raise slightly. Okay. Alright, so let's say you're interested in space shuttles, you're looking at Elon Musk and Twitter and all sort of stuff, and there you go. So that you kind of create a link there. So in Mars, intracranial pressure raises from 7 to 18, normal is 5 to 15. So you're kind of really making all these fantastic and fancy associations that you never thought you'd want to make. These are fun as well. That's the beauty of the whole technique. It's actually fun. This GAMT DL framework is actually so fun to use. You'd spend hours without knowing that you spend hours. Okay? And that's how learning should feel like. That's what true learning looks like. You get a big dopamine hit. I'll tell you, if you use this consistently, you're going to be addicted to learning. You're going to be looking forward to when I'm going to go learn next. So many times I've experienced it myself. So this is fascinating. You just need to try it out. Just try it out once. The next topic, take any topic, just try it once, right? You'll be hooked. I promise you'll be hooked. It's such a fascinating way to learn topic. It's really is. Okay, so association, so that you get the idea, right? So you need to create associations in the topic, between topics, between subjects, personal, friends and family, bigger picture. So the more associations you have, it's better. Okay, and try to put everything in your anchor, in and out of your anchor, so you can actually go back to it later if you have to. Okay, all right, so zone 5, only 3 more zones left. Okay, almost there. So zone 6 is the past exam questions. So this is very, very important. So you probably would have heard about the study. There's a famous study by, there's a study. So this is the guy, the Carpy case, a very famous guy. He produced this groundbreaking research in 2006 where he published the effect of testing. So he got students, divided them into 2 groups. One group, they read the topic again and again. The other group, they tested again and again. And what they found was like 14 to 16% improvement in the long-term memory. I'm not talking short-term memory. The long-term memory is significantly better in the testing group compared to the non-testing group. So this is actually been called the testing effect. So testing effect is real. So it's one of the smart ways that actually you can improve your learning and retention in the longer period of time. The past exam questions are one thing that consistently differentiate the top 10% from the rest of the class. So all high performers use past exam questions. There's no other way. If you prepare for exams, if you go to the exams without doing the past exam questions, there's no pardoning you. Okay. Say if you type in here past questions in your first exam topic of race ICP listed with the answers year by starting from 2016. So September 2016. So you have question 8, which is 65-year-old underwent coronary bypass surgery. Current knowledge in this setting. So again, one question from March 2017, 2018. September, etc. You have the questions, right? But then you can also say, just copy this and say, okay, so I'm going to paste it here and say, provide answers to these questions. All right. So this is a phenomenal tool that you can actually use to learn any topic. So September 2016, question management of blood pressure post CABG, assessment, root of embolic stroke, celebrity bypass surgery, CT management, etc. So you can actually look at all the questions, the past exam questions, and also you can actually get clear answers, and you can actually write answers for these questions, and then ask ChatGPT to mark it. Say like, this is my answer for this question. How would you rank it? Like, what are the pluses and minuses, etc. Very easy to look at these concepts and these zones with the help of ChatGPT. Okay, so obviously you'll have past exam question book that you're going to solve side by side, but again, ChatGPT is a very useful tool for that as well. Okay, great. Now we're going to go to the next zone, zone 7, which is the applying the knowledge zone. Okay, so the applying the knowledge zone is very interesting. So you can apply the knowledge in two ways: external and internal. Okay, so external application of knowledge, what do I mean by that? So for example, when you're learning about ICP, you go to the ward and you treat a patient with ICP. You go to ICU, you treat the patient with ICP. You go to A&E, you treat a patient with the raised ICP. So that is where you apply the knowledge that you learn. That is one of the best ways to consolidate the knowledge in the long run, right? Now, so that obviously can't happen all the time. So, you're a medical student, you obviously won't be able to treat a patient, or you're reading for your fellowship exams, but you never come across a patient in A&E with raised ACV before you go to the exams, right? That can happen. So, that may not be practical, but that is one potential opportunity. But you need to always keep that in mind. So, in real world experience is very important, where you can apply the knowledge and you can actually establish that with long-term memory. So, next is obviously closest to the real thing is a simulation. So if you have a simulation lab where they teach about managing patient raised ICP, that's another useful tool. Again, these are I call them external because they are not under your control, but it's important to know that they exist. So when they happen, you actually grab them with both hands and use to consolidate your knowledge. So real world examples is the best. Simulation is the second best. And then you have something called internal stuff. So internal stuff, the two things that I want you to focus on. One is problem-based learning. Second is teaching others. Okay, so what is problem-based learning? So problem-based learning is you're given a problem and you're allowed to apply the knowledge to solving that problem. So again, you can use ChatGPT very efficiently for this sort of activity. So generate a problem-based learning question on the topic of raised intracranial pressure. Okay. Let's see what ChatGPT throws us. Okay, problem-based learning, raised intracranial pressure. Okay, so you're a part of a critical team in tertiary hospital, so 45 million dollars. So what it does is this provides you with a problem-based scenario. So it allows you to think not only just on the particular topic, in and around the topic, and you're actually forced to apply the knowledge. This is one of the very efficient ways to apply the knowledge and have a long-term understanding of the concept or retention of the topic. Okay, problem-based learning, very important. Okay. So what are the investigations do? What are the complications? So the questions is what are the primary goals of managing the patient to prevent secondary brain injury? So you're kind of really addressing the same topic but in different angles. Okay. And the next thing is teaching others, right? So teaching others strictly doesn't come under applying the knowledge category, but maybe it does. But I include it here because it's in a way you're actually applying the knowledge that you learned. You're actually organizing the information in your brain, summarizing your own brain, and then teaching somebody else. So this transfer of knowledge from your brain to somebody else requires a level of cognitive processing, and this cognitive processing is actually very useful to train the content in the long term. So one thing that I definitely do if you read a topic, and especially if you create a GAMT, okay, so I'm going to keep coming back to GAMT because it's a GAMT PDA channel. I need to focus on my memory technique. Okay, so let's say you read about intracranial pressure, and this is the GAMT you use for the intracranial pressure, which is the tree. I want you to catch hold of one of your friends in the next week, right? Before you forget this, and just teach him this. You draw the GAMT saying this is what this is what, etc. And there you go. So you taught somebody else. That allows you to have this cognitive processing, which is going to help you in your long-term retention of memory. So this is very important. This is very, very crucial. This is under your control, right? So as I saw already, applying knowledge, there are two categories: external, internal. The external is not under your control, so you got to go real world simulation. External, internal is problem-based learning and teaching others. So you need to maximize the factors that are under your control. Now we're almost done. We're coming to the last zone, which is research and innovations. Again, fascinating zone. This zone is very, very interesting. Again, depends on what your personality is. Like you might be a researcher. You might be a business, you might come from a business background, or you're interested in business, you're starting a business. Let's say you have huge capital. Once you finish your medical school, for example, you have a huge business empire waiting for you. You need to start creating ideas. So this is the zone where you need to be, okay? So assuming you spend zone times in all different zones, you're going to go to the next zone, which is the research and innovation zone. So how does it look like? So again, ChatGPT is there to help us, okay? So give me 5 research ideas on intracranial pressure that answers questions not answered till now. All right, okay. All right. So these are 5 research. So you see what's happening here, right? You're taking one topic and you're actually approaching it multiple different angles. You're approaching and asking a lot of why questions. You're going to the basement of this topic and you're comparing and contrasting with multiple topics. You're creating associations, and then you're using past exam questions, and you're teaching others. And then now you're asking researching, what type of research can I do? Again, okay, so non-invasive ICP monitoring, there you go. So question, can you develop full non-invasive measures, current measures, proposed parameters? So okay, so that's a great research idea. So you're looking at non-invasive real-time ICP monitoring. If you have some ideas of that, okay, go for it. ICP variability in microgravity environments, like cluster with Mars, so probably that's why it's calling it. And neurodegenerative disease, another important question. So again, then you got Alzheimer's. Read about Parkinson's before, and say what happens in Parkinson's? Does anything happen to the intracranial pressure in Parkinson's? Anything happen to intracranial pressure in Alzheimer's? I don't know, but you can have a look. So you go back to the anchor for that particular topic and see if there's anything related to intracranial pressure. If you can't find it, come back to ChatGPT, ask more questions. So this is how you do it. This is how deep learning or higher order thinking works. This is how geniuses learn. Okay, right? ICP in pediatric population. So mental health disorders. So listen, there are loads of research opportunities. All you need to do is ask the right questions. Okay, innovation, another thing. Okay, so generate. All right, so this is for 5. Let's say generate 5 business ideas for in the domain of intracranial pressure. Okay, let's see. So I want to run 5 business. These are the 5 innovative business ideas. All right, there you go. Okay, portable non-invasive monitoring device. Okay, target audience. There you go. Revenue model. Your revenue model. Of course, A is everywhere. ChatGPT is everywhere. Power ICP prediction software. Smart helmets for ICP monitoring. Sports and military. That's very interesting. How cool will it be? You have this so first you need to build non-invasive ICP monitor. Then you can put a helmet with their sensors, and then when a significant change in the ICP happens during playing, and it detects and warns the athlete and be taken off the pitch. Wow, that's cool. That's something there for you. Okay, variable ICP. So this is fascinating. This really gets you interested in the topic. The most important thing I feel about this is that, as I told you before, it's actually converts learning into a joyous activity. It creates a lot of fun in learning. That's exactly what you want. Learning shouldn't be a boring activity where you sit hours on end reading over the topic again and again and multiple times. No, it doesn't have to be that way. Learning should be fun. Learning should be very actively engaging activity. You should stimulate all parts of your brain. You should create a dopamine hit, like when we got the dopamine hit when we looked at when we discovered the 20 millimeter is the common thread across all the closed compartments. That was a wow moment. Surely gave me a hit of dopamine. And then you look at the business side and say, this one, the portable non-invasive helmets. Oh yeah, sport helmets for ICP. I said, wow, great. My son is playing GAA and rugby, and say, okay, I'm interested in that. If somebody comes on the device, I'll be probably willing to try it. So all this gets you excited. All these gets you really fascinated about learning. And this doesn't have to be just ICP. It can be any topic, right? For any topic, I'm sure you can generate research ideas. You can generate innovation ideas. You can generate business ideas. You can generate associations and compare and contrast. This is so generic, but this framework can be applied to any topic you learn. So that's kind of really brings us to the end of this lecture. I'm so hyped up. I can't stop talking. Okay. Anyway, I'll stop now shortly. Okay, that's it. All right. So that's the GAMT DL framework. So in short, GAMT DL framework is is a deep learning framework that allows you to engage in deep learning and higher order thinking in any topic you learn, and you're going to learn like a genius, right? And you can master the topic at the end of it. This is what GAMT DL framework looks like. This GAMT has all the information on the 8 zones, and these are all proven. These all have embedded techniques that has been well researched in the educational literature. Okay, and these are not just concepts plucked out of thin air. These are basically what we've done here is we combine a lot of different approaches integrated in one component, and we kind of shown how we can access the power of the generative AI techniques in the web nowadays to supercharge your learning. Okay, so I talked about the 400 million students right at the start. So I want to come back to that. So I don't know if you guys know about this particular book, which is called Visible Learning. Right? So the first edition was published in 2008. The recent edition was published in 2023. It is written by a guy called John Hattie, who's very well regarded in educational literature. He is one of the leading researchers in this field, and in the first edition, 2008. He looked at 800 meta-analysis. So he basically synthesized information from all these meta-analyses. So that, as you know, there are randomized control studies, and then there's meta-analysis, which actually looks at multiple randomized control studies, combines them, provides an output. And then there's meta-analysis of meta-analysis, which John Hattie calls meta-synthesis, and where they look into multiple meta-analysis. So in the first edition, he looked at 800 meta-analysis, where he looked at 50,000 studies, more than 50,000 studies. And these studies involved 80 million students. And what he did is kind of unapologetically listed the things that actually work for learning and things that don't work for learning. Now, when he looked at all the data, what he found was when the effect size of these is 0.4, that's when they get the same benefit as spending a year in school. Okay, so anything with the effect size of more than 0.4 is said to be good. So 0.4 to 0.6 is more red. Anything more than 0.6 is actually fantastic. So you get really high value out of that particular intervention, right? So he published a list of around, I think around 252 factors that impact education and learning in students. And he published a study that went, that obviously was massive hit, and the book sold out even before it prints the next version. So it is really very well talked about. And then in 2023 edition, he looked at more. So this kept on going. So in 2023 edition, even more studies. So 2,100 meta-analysis now. It's more than double than what he did the last time. And now he looked at 130,000 studies. Compared to 50,000 studies before, more than double again. And now this database includes 400 million students. So that's massive number, right? Obviously, as with any meta-analysis or meta-synthesis of meta-analysis, there's going to be a lot of criticisms as well, and you should always take any meta-analysis with a pinch of salt, because there can be a lot of publication bias, hidden bias, and heterogeneity. So what do I mean by heterogeneity? Heterogeneity is when you look at a study, when you do an intervention, it works very well in one study, and then it doesn't work at all in the other study. So when you combine all these studies together, eventually you'll get an output which says is actually working, but maybe it's just based on 1 or 2 studies which showed a large effect, whereas let's say 10 studies showed a large effect, and then 50 studies showed a very small effect. You eventually will get, there's a massive effect here. So there is that heterogeneity there as well, which can actually reduce the strength of the conclusions of meta-analysis. So you need to take the meta-analysis with a pinch of salt. Even when you do that, right? So the inference are very, very significant. So he lists a lot of things, right? So I'm just showing you the screenshot here. So top 250 influences. So you see a lot of these things. Hinge point of 0.4. So it keeps on going. There's 250. There's a lot of these, right? Some of them are kind of based on the environment. Some of them is based on the teacher, etc. Right? So what I did, asked ChatGPT, give me the top 10 factors under students' control from John Hattie's 2023 Visible Learning the Sequel study. Okay, and I asked him to list under descending order frequency. So there you go. So the ones that's highlighted are the ones that's covered in the GAMT DL framework. Just having a look at it, self-reported grades are really get a massive effect. How does it work? Again, it's not for today's video, but for talking another video next time. But when you look at the GAMT DL framework, when you look at all the stuff that you look, deliberate practice. Deliberate practice means you not only do practice again and again, but you actually get feedback every time you do a practice. So how does it work with the GAMT DL framework? So anytime you ask a question, you get an answer. That's a feedback. And you solve a past exam question and you write an answer, and then ChatGPT says, "Oh, that answer is wrong. So you need to do the right answer." So anytime, you do a past MCQ in the book and you get an answer wrong, you get a feedback. So and then you ask a question why, and you get an answer. So all these things where you're deliberately asking, when you're repeating the questions, when you're reading the topic again and again, and you're getting repeated feedback on all these aspects, that's called deliberate practice, and that's what is happening with the GAMT DL framework. Space versus mass practice, again, what we're doing is learning now, so obviously you need to space your practice. That's again for a recall strategy that we can discuss again. Metacognitive strategy. Metacognition is learning about learning. What we're doing, the GAMT DL framework is exactly that. You kind of learning about, this whole lecture is about metacognition, right? So you're learning how to learn, and you're applying those principles. So you're aware that you're actually in the Y zone, and you're aware that you're in the compare and the contrast zone. So all this awareness of the way you're going to learn creates a massive impact on your learning. That's actually 0.69. That's pretty significant. Deliberate practice is 0.79. Self-verbalization, self-questioning, which we do with the GAMT DL framework. Study skills, any study skills that you employ for learning. The skills that we do now. The GAMT DL framework is an example of integration of multiple study skills, your memory techniques, all this stuff. It's 0.59. Peer tutoring, when you talk about applying the knowledge and teaching others, that's kind of comes under peer tutoring. So you're using that as well. Concentration, persistence. As you can see, once you use this framework, I kind of really urge you to do it once, like just one topic, right? If it doesn't work, put it in the comments and say this method is terrible. I just want one person to say this method is terrible, okay? I'll engage with that person and I'll go through this stuff with the person, see what happened, right? But that's the beauty of this. You'll get effortless concentration with this method. You don't have to really try hard to focus. It'll just come effortlessly because you have this framework, right? So you're going from one zone to the other zone. It's very easy to be focused, very easy to know what questions to ask, and very easy to get the maximum benefit for your time. Okay, so all these things. So again, let's say look at the top. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 out of the 10 things are covered by the GAMT DL framework. Now, stuff like goal setting, motivation, self-reported, space, match barriers doesn't really come under the learning method, but actually comes later. But again, what you're doing is you're using the principles that has been shown to work for more than 400 million students. You're distilling the information because you're using the 6 of the top 10 in this GAMT DL framework. That's phenomenal. I mean, no other technique integrates all these high efficacy methods into one learning technique, and this is very easy because of the generative AI that you have and the current system. This makes the learning much more interesting and much more fascinating. Okay? So there it goes. That's the GAMT DL framework. Now, the beauty of this video is not only the different zones now, but you also remember them, right? Like if you look at the GAMT, look at the tree. Like once you stop watching this video, you can describe this to your friend tomorrow because it's there. You have the tree cavity, the eggs, the leaves, and the roots, and the saplings, and the roots. You have everything. So you have it in your memory. So a lot of times when you listen to any of these videos, when they list 10 things or 8 things or 12 things, you probably have to, you probably remember 1 or 2 things the next day. But this video, you're going to remember everything. So you have that in mind. So you can carry it wherever you want. So you go to the library next time, and all you need is a laptop with an internet access, and you have this framework in your brain already. Like you don't have to make any effort. It's there already. That's the beauty of the GAMT technique, right? So you have that. All you do is just apply it. That's it. Boom, done. So please try it once, no matter how small the topic is going to be. I want you guys who are listening to this video to apply it to one topic and just put it in the comment. What topic did you apply it for? How did you find it? I think it's very important because I need to get your feedback. It's crucial to get more people to give me the feedback because it kind of really refines the content. It really motivates me to get more videos out. So hope you enjoy the content, and if you want to know more about this technique, the glyph assisted memory technique, please have a look at this video. This is the first memory technique that has been introduced in more than a century, and I'm really excited by this. I have videos on the GAMT recall strategy, so please have a look at them, and I have good few videos on the GAMT for anesthesia topics. So and also I'm really excited to say that we're working on an app at the moment where once you read a topic and generate the keywords, all you have to do is enter the keywords into the app, and it's actually generate the GAMT for you. So that part of the work is already done. So creating a GAMT is going to be very easy. So I'm hoping the next few months is going to be ready. I can't wait for it, and I'll see you in the next. Thanks. Bye.
Learn that game that feel the beat. In every learning zone you'll reach the feed. From glitch to riches, you ditch the glitches. Get it out of learning and you flip the switches. Learn that game that feel the beat. In every learning zone you'll reach the feed. From glitch to riches, you ditch the glitches. Get it out of learning and you flip the switches.